While scanning around on Google Earth in remote regions of the world, I noticed something really odd that caught my eye. There were hundreds, maybe even thousands of rectangular indentations into the side of this mountain. It would be pretty unusual and maybe even impossible that this kind of geometry could be a natural geological feature, so it had me wondering what on earth it could be. My first thought was they could be ancient ruins of a city, but the shape seemed too formulaic. Normally, ancient city foundations have different sizes and even shapes, like these examples. I also noticed that there were quite a few small holes and circles. I was going to have to do some investigating, and once I started looking into the history of this region, I became absolutely fascinated by the discoveries and some of the theories of what this could be. Today the area is a somewhat small remote port town in Iran, with a population of just 3,500 people within 722 households, where small fishing boats quaintly dot across the beachfront, not too far away from an oil refinery. However, to really understand what was going on here, we need to go back in time and get a better picture of its geographical location. These rectangular features are located on a mountainside some 1,000 meters above the port town known as Siraf. Originally an ancient city that flourished from around the 3rd to the 11th century, it accommodated hundreds and thousands of people, making it one of the busiest ports in the Persian Gulf at that time. This was because it was part of an important trade route, the Silk Road, also known as the Silk Route, since it was not one direct road, but instead an intricate web of land and sea routes connecting Asia, Africa, and Europe. Ancient coins have been discovered here from Spain, Oman, Zanzibar, China, and India, demonstrating the historical importance of this port. In its glory days, there was a mixture of cultures and religions which would come together to trade their most prized goods. But what makes this location so intriguing is that the city had no access to water. There were no rich underground aquifers and no permanent rivers. This is due to its geographical location in the Nubo-Sindian Desert, which is characterized by flat coastal land and high rugged mountains. Biodiversity is limited by low moisture levels. Some areas go for years without significant rain. Portions of the area support a thin savanna-like cover of widely scattered trees and scrub, surrounded by grasses that briefly flourish after rainfall. However, despite these inhospitable conditions, archaeological research has indicated that Siraf developed almost 500 hectares of irrigated farms for fruit and crop production, with the average rainfall being less than 250 millimeters a year. So how were they able to secure the required fresh water for such a big city located in the hottest part of the coast and where drinking water was so scarce? Well, it all comes down to a completely unique water system that's never been seen before. Several systems were designed to conserve stormwater to prevent it from sweeping down the escarpment and flooding into the town, which is situated on an extremely narrow stretch of land between mountains and the sea, making it very vulnerable to flash floods. To prevent this, they dammed the gully at 3 points, with a conduit leading from the highest barrier towards an aqueduct which entered Siraf through the gorge. These rectangular puddles dug out on the mountain to the north of Siraf were mistakenly understood by archaeologists to be graves, are actually originally used to harvest rainwater. The whole rocky southward face of the mountain has been dug to make rectangular water impoundments. Pounding water is known as standing or pooling water, and it happens when water accumulates or stagnates. In this case, the water does not stagnate since it seeps down naturally through the stone and rocks. Most of the pools have been designed with outlets to transfer the extra water to the next pounding, and the final outlet directs water to the wells and underground water reservoirs through man-made channels. These reservoirs are believed to have been built at the end of their natural watersheds, deep in the ground and with minimum construction material, which helps them to store a considerable amount of water for a long period of time. Even some of the water was sold to ships. The size of these wells tend to be about 5 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 20 meters deep, but some wells go as deep as 140 meters. Furthermore, in Siraf, this clever water harvesting technique was combined with agricultural know-how to produce stunning agricultural products. It is being realized that these ancient and forgotten techniques developed by people living in the desert are more efficient and economical than new systems that have been introduced in the last century that often over-extract the water that is available by depleting the aquifers. Most importantly, this ancient system shows how it's possible to keep replenishing the aquifers and subterranean water sources by using these practical rainwater harvesting techniques. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments.